Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. You can go to my website, toldtutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Told Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Told Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, Google Plus, Neil Haley, and also on Periscope at Total Tutor. And when I'm recording so many television shows in one day, this is my sixth guest. I have one more to go and almost a 4-hour TV studio appearance. But I'm definitely saving one of the best for last, but who knows how it's going to go in the lineup for television. But I'm excited to welcome the program from the CBS TV show hit series Scorpion, Walter O'Brien. Walter, thanks for calling, man. And you've had a very interesting storied life getting to this point and then seeing what the TV show's done. Isn't that true?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you making the time.
Absolutely. And so growing up, you probably never knew that you would have a story idea that ended up with a hit TV show, right? For sure.
No, definitely wasn't expecting it to go this far, but I'm glad that it did. I seem to have spent my life avoiding going back to farming and also trying to not be bored. And I have an insatiable appetite for activity. So the TV show certainly keeps me not bored.
Tell me you're talking about farming. Tell me about your technical background now, Walter. How that started becoming a techie. What kind of intrigued you?
Well, I was born and raised on a farm in Ireland, dairy farmer's son, and I didn't really enjoy farming in the rain. It didn't appeal to me.
Okay.
And I was an odd kid, and I had scored a 197 on the IQ test,
oh my,
which statistically made me the fifth highest IQ in the world. So I then got access to the Gifted Children's Society and got my hands on a computer and became self-taught in computers initially. Later on, I got degrees in computer science and artificial intelligence from Sussex. And by 13, I'd hacked into NASA and stolen the shuttle blueprints. And by 16, I'd hacked the Bank of England. And that seemed much more interesting and fascinating than farming in the rain.
It definitely does, yeah. But you're so intelligent, you probably are like, I'm blown away to talk to probably the smartest guy I've ever talked to in my life.
Well, thank you. But a lot of people mix up smartness with IQ or intelligence. It's not quite the same thing. It just means my brain fires neurons quicker and absorbs glucose more. But it doesn't mean I know how to use it. Smart is knowing how to use it. But there's a lot of things I'm not good at. And there's a few things that come intuitively. And I'm very left-brained, so logic and programming and technology come intuitively. But you don't want me cooking, dancing, or singing anything.
Well, but doing this stuff and breaking into all these computer systems and different things like this wasn't really a good way to become a celebrity, is it? And well, no, this is not the way to kind of say, okay, we're gonna say perfect job for you, right? By doing that was, you were tweaking with things, but people didn't like you too much at that time, right? When you broke into those places.
Correct. No, I mean, I was heavily bullied in both school and in high school. Mm-hmm. I didn't really start being accepted until I got to university level, and I was with people kind of at my own cognitive speed. But even a TV show, if we made a TV show just about hacking, I think people would tune out, or it would be a documentary on the Discovery Channel, as opposed to one of the number one TV shows on the air. And the reason for it is a phenomenon I discovered early on. I started a company at 13, and I hired my friends, who were all prodigies.
Oh, wow.
And I realized very quickly that, in general, the higher their IQ, the lower their EQ. EQ being emotional quotient, common sense, social skills, bedside manner, street smarts. Mm-hmm. And the higher someone's IQ academically, the harder it is for them to relate to people around them.
Okay.
So they're worse at the EQ. So your IQ doesn't change, but you can change your EQ. And by changing your EQ a little bit, it affects your whole life. Cornell University came out with a study recently saying 85% of someone's success is their EQ, 15% their IQ, so I should have been screwed.
But you didn't, because I guess, now think about when you said hacking, and just now we're hearing about all the hacking in our governments happening on a regular basis. Walter, you should be talking to the federal government right now saying, what are you guys doing that your email's being hacked so easily and stuff like that? Was it like just a fun little thing for you to say, let me see if I can break into this system? This is before, think of the days of war games and when the movie War Games and how he broke into the computer system of the government and that one thing. But the hacking idea, did you say by tweaking and playing around with things, you figured out how to hack different programs and get into different systems?
Well, let's see. There's a few questions in that. Firstly, I spent a good portion of last month in Washington at all the various three-letter agencies dealing with a proposal of asking Scorpion, since I'm now, I think, the most renowned hacker in the U.S. in terms of 26 million fans.
Yes.
To build something Scorpion couldn't hack into. Kind of like a Manhattan Project 2.0.
Okay.
Where we take all the best techniques we know and put them all in one box and then prove that we can't get into it, and that all the hacks that have affected the government in the last 3 years, we backtest those and prove that those wouldn't have worked. Effectively building the first bank vault for data. And I think right now, the reason data is being stolen and people are being hacked is they're storing the data under their mattress, to use the analogy of money, and it's easy to steal. But if we actually built them a Wells Fargo, it might get a little harder to steal. So that's one piece. In terms of learning hacking is really just a mentality. It's a mindset. It's seeing what's not there rather than seeing what's there. And it starts with understanding intuitively how computers work and how they're coded and how programmers write code. Then it's easy for you to say, I bet the programmer never thought of this. I bet he didn't account for that. I bet if I make this variable blank, it'll probably crash this security server. And you're basically seeing what's not there because you can see the whole universe. You can see what they didn't think of.
So that's good that the government's contacting you. I'm glad to hear that, and that they're using your expertise in so many ways. And I want to get to the show Scorpion in the second segment, but I'm very, very interested in the fact of how people are able to look at computer programming and code and figure it out. And once you understand code because of it's like a foreign language, then it's just like, how can I maneuver through it, as you were telling me? That's interesting. So computer code, is it like the beautiful mind for you, Walter? You look at computer code and it kind of just turns out English for you?
I actually did technical draftsmanship for 3 years at college, and that's kind of like architecture.
Right.
And it taught me 3D visualization, which I use a lot when it comes to coding, where I can see it in my head almost like the cogwheels in a clock or a watch.
Oh my!
And I can go inside of it and kind of look at it from different angles to find a way in. A good analogy, I think, would be a mechanic looking at a car. You have a mechanic who's an expert on Chevy trucks, and you drive up to him in a Ford truck, and he pops the hood, and you tell him, how would you disable this truck? Well, he knows there's a fuel pump somewhere. That fuel pump has electricity to it.
Right.
If he can find that wire and cut it, then it won't pump any fuel. No fuel being pumped, the engine stops running. And he doesn't necessarily have to have ever seen that truck before, but he knows the basics of how trucks work. So he knows what he's looking for, and he knows roughly where it should be and what it should be connected to. And he's probably got 20 ways of disabling that truck,
Definitely.
or at least its brakes.
I mean, I can't. Fascinating to say the least about how you're able to figure all that stuff out. And you said you started your company at 13 years old, hired specific people, and part of the whole company's goal is to help protect others from someone like you, right? Correct?
Correct. It's basically a home for the mentally enabled. It's an orphanage for smart people because they don't fit in anywhere else in society. And the EQ stuff I was talking about, we actually went out and deliberately hired people who have high EQ. psychologists, and elementary school teachers. And we call them the super nanny. So they babysit the geniuses and the customers. Now we have the best communicators working with the best thinkers. And a lot of the best thinkers suck at marketing, branding, sales, legal, taxes, accounting, all these areas they consider superfluous. So we have groups and companies that do those things very well. So we're kind of like an incubator for smart people where they can just come in and say, you're just paid to think. You just do the thing that you're good at, and all the other paperwork someone else will take care of.
Interesting. And so based on your company, Scorpion, in so many ways, tell me, I guess, the growth of that company before the whole idea, and then we'll get to the story of how this whole CBS thing came about. So you started the company, and tell us about that growth.
So we started a company, and when we started, it was kind of like Geek Squad. I was just running around on bicycles because we couldn't afford cars. We were under 16. And we were just fixing bad floppy disks and printers and backing people's stuff up and so on. So it was, non-glamorous work. Then as those companies got to know us and they grew, because this was 1988, they started getting into supply chain management and shop floor planning and shipping containers and, e-commerce systems and credit card processing. And we just grew with them and got very good at any big math, any system where you lose billions of dollars per hour if the systems are offline.
Okay.
So we did that. And then an unusual thing happened. Our high net worth customers that privately own some of the businesses, and we had 44 billionaires and 5 royal families as clients, they started asking us to solve problems that weren't technical, like their daughter got kidnapped, or their mom has throat cancer, and they want us to research all non-FDA approved solutions outside the U.S., or their son has anorexia. Can we look up all food that's high in fat and calories, but is odorless and tasteless? Can we choose a winning racehorse based on his DNA? Can we make their book a New York Times bestseller by figuring out how that ranking system works? So people started hiring us for this stuff, and we opened up a business called ConciergeUp.com. Because normally you concierge down things that are too simple to do yourself. Now you can concierge up things that are too complicated to do yourself. So we tell people, if you want to search something, type it in Google. If you want it to happen, type it in Concierge Up. And what happened was we started running out of geniuses.
Okay.
So I got the geniuses together and I said, now I have a funded problem. How do I find more geniuses? And they said, if you write a book, the millennials won't read it. If you make a movie, they'll forget your name in 6 months. But if you replace CSI as the #1 show on the air for the next 10 years, not only will the geniuses come find you, but all the 12-year-olds out there will grow up studying computer science and artificial intelligence, and in 10 years come and join the actual company. And so that's what we did.
Oh, wow. So, Walter, when we get back, we're going to talk more about that. And so that's only a genius would come up with that idea, Walter. So, I mean, different things wouldn't work. And you got, again, your research team, it must be phenomenal because they went and came up with all these different ideas. And you're definitely the think tank to come to. You're watching the Neil Haley Show. When we get back, more with Walter O'Brien from the hit TV show Scorpion. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, ladies, if you're looking for something to do, come out to the Bethel Park Public Library's Purse Bash on Friday, November 20th at the Community Center. Tickets for the event are $25 a piece. What is a Purse Bash? We draw for a designer bag every 15 minutes. If your number's called, you win. We have a dozen purses to give away, including those from Dooney & Burke, Brahmin, Patricia Nash, Michael Kors, Coach, and others. In addition to the great designer handbags, there will be a 50-50 raffle and many baskets that will be raffled off. This is a BYOB event. Soft drinks and light snacks will be provided. Feel free to bring your own chips or some good guacamole or whatever you like. Tickets can be purchased at the library from the library's website at bethelparklibrary.org or also at Evie's True Value Hardware.
Join us Friday, November 20th at 7 p.m. in the Bethel Park Community Center, and you can be a winner just like me.
All proceeds benefit the Bethel Park Public Library. We thank you for your support.
We're back to the Neil Haley Show on the Toltecation Network. Again, Tolter.net for more information. Twitter, Tolter, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Tolter, Pinterest, Neil Haley, Google+, and on Periscope at Tolter. And I'm with Walter O'Brien from the hit TV CBS show Scorpion. And so you were going to replace CSI. So when people told you that idea, were you hesitant to say that really could happen?
Well, we knew the odds. We knew with the number of scripts that get reported to or sent into a studio all the way to getting on the air and then staying on the air is probably 1,000,000 to 1 shot. So, but so is taking a startup technology company all the way to IPO, which we've done before as well. So basically we're like, okay, how do we reduce the odds of that? Well, if we took the producers of Transformers, Spider-Man, and Star Trek, put them with the director of Fast and the Furious, and use the writers from Sopranos, Prison Break, and Hostages.
Oh my gosh!
And put them all together. That might increase our odds a little bit.
It would.
And so that's what we did. And you know, why pay for a marketing and branding campaign when you can have one that pays you? So it made a lot of sense. And we needed those writers because, again, if we made it all technically accurate, it would be a really boring show.
Yes.
So we needed someone to mix in car chases, explosions, romance, guns, and sense of humor, while still carrying the message across that it's cool to be smart and that every problem has a solution. So that kids will want to be the next high-tech James Bond. And I would be Q because I would provide the gadgets to the show. And that's what we did. And it just kept mushrooming from there, and it worked out. And, yeah, we beat NCIS and CSI in the ratings several times now.
Oh. Now, tell us specifically the premise of the show. I have not watched it, Walter. I'm going to definitely go this weekend with my wife and say, okay, it's on DVR, you know, on demand. Let's watch it now. And then I'll have to see if you're connected via social media and say, okay, I finally watched this. CBS is perfect because you got the Big Bang Theory. You got different shows that very highly intelligent people watch CBS. So you picked the right station, too. Was that pretty easy as well to know that CBS would be the perfect spot?
They were the number one station. They also had the most family watching, and we became a family event on Mondays. Kids would make their parents sit down and watch it with them, and then discuss EQ lessons at the end of the show. And as we said earlier, if EQ is responsible for 85% of your success, they don't teach it, and they don't teach it in schools, then it's probably a good idea that kids discuss it with their parents as a topic in itself. And the premise of the show is not where we are now as a company, it's how we started. So it rewinds back 20 years, and it shows me and a couple of people who are inspired by real friends of mine who still work with me in the company.
Oh, wow.
And you get to see that how those people sometimes can't see the forest for the trees. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a dysfunctional family of superheroes, so they're likable.
Okay.
And their OCD and germophobia and gambling habits and everything else are an exaggeration of all of our flaws. Everyone has flaws in these areas, just with prodigies, it's on steroids. And then Catherine McPhee is on the show as a single mom whose son she thought was autistic is actually a genius. And she is the normal one teaching them how to relate to the world. So she is the first super nanny.
And that's what you have in your company. As you talked about before, you hire these people to babysit the geniuses that can literally do the work, but yet if it's relate to light, a deadline, specifically being on time for certain things or hygiene or certain things, that's what you need the babysitter for.
Somebody has to herd the cats because they don't speak human too well.
I work with Asperger's kids, and I coach one that's in college, and he's so brilliant. Yet giving him the idea of a deadline or certain things like that, and he's like, really? So I understand, especially a major company, that millions and millions and millions of dollars or even billions are involved to do that. So when you got all those people together, you really kind of circumvented the system, saying, I'm going to get the most talented people from all these shows that were successful together to help put this together. So you send this project to CBS and different stations. So you really eliminated the odds, but that's a lot of money to start off to pitch these people these ideas, right? And talk to the people from these different shows that have had success to come on board with you.
Right, but Scorpion's one of many companies I own, and we've done $1.3 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
So it was, we had the budget.
You're always looking to grow, right? What's the next thing? So so if I would say to you and get your think tank team together, you could come up with any business idea for any company in the world, couldn't you, to grow to the next level?
Correct. Basically, that's the whole point. I'm an affordable Santa Claus for any project over $5,000. I don't charge for my time anymore because I'd be $300,000 an hour and nobody would talk to me.
Yeah.
And my guys average $150 an hour, so they're very affordable. And it's like a retainer at a law firm. You can even get your money back if you don't use it. So if you came to us and said, look, I have this idea, this widget, this gadget, but I'm not a business person, then we have a process called a business in a box, where all the things you need, from your logo to your business card to your website to your e-fax number to your pro forma and your business plan and raising funding and finding investors and all of that, we've done it so many times, it's now cut and paste or cookie cutter for us. So rather than you trying to do it for the very first time on your own. So that way, there's 140 different things you got to do when you start a business. And if you do it right, it should only cost you about $500 a month to pay all the fees for those things, because you outsource everything on the internet.
Right.
Well, we have that checklist. And that can save you about 2 years of research and bumbling around and paying for the wrong thing when you go to start a business. So a lot of the reason we can help people is not necessarily the genius part. It's more a case of we've already done it 10 times, so we can do it for you the 11th time a lot faster and more efficiently.
So and I think it's like you got this idea, you go and talk to your team, and then they'll pretty much say, the only way for this idea, odds-wise, to be successful is to do this, this, and this. The direction you're going down the road won't work, but it doesn't guarantee it, but it reduces the odds, right?
Right. You go from 1 in a million chance of success to maybe 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000.
And that has to do a lot with numbers, right, Walter, in ways?
Well, I'm biased. My brain is good with numbers, so I turn the world into a casino, and I calculate the odds of everything. And I'll tell you if it's not worth doing, if the odds don't make sense.
Right.
You know, if you're putting money into an idea, and I'm like, this idea is never going to fly unless you have $1 billion behind it. So keep your $5,000 and go home. I just saved you some money.
So when people have lunch with you or dinner and they ask advice, like your E.F. Hutton and back in the day of E.F. Hutton, and people listen and all that stuff, is it hard at times how blunt you are? Flat out say this isn't going to work. How difficult is it for people with egos to hire your company and say, I know this is going to be great, and yet it didn't have outside sources to do it? That's what I think is fascinating about you, Walter, is literally you're able to cut to the chase.
Correct. Well, look, I'm going to be very honest and straightforward with the customer from the beginning. And, frankly, we have a no a-hole policy at the company. So if we're working with someone and they're unrealistic, and they fired their last 3 companies for all the different reasons, and they don't realize that what they're paying us to do is research. And Einstein said, if we knew what we were doing, we wouldn't call it research, would we?
Right.
Famously. So it's a case of you don't know how to do it or what it costs, so I don't know how to do it or what it costs. But we're going to work together and report back every Friday what we've learned and where we're at, and decide if we want to go next week or not. That's kind of the best mode of doing this. Trying to lock things into fixed bid just means we don't end up with any product and we both end up in court. And so the whole structure of how we work is very honest from the beginning, and hope that the customer appreciates that. And if they don't, there's plenty of other companies that'll lie to them, take their money, and then end up in court arguing over a fixed bid contract, where both people agreed on a number for something that they hadn't even got the requirements for yet.
So you said you have a bunch of different businesses, Walter. You still have the whole cybersecurity business. I know you couldn't list them all, so there's a website to find out all the different businesses you're involved in, correct? Or meaning like your business. Yeah.
Well, you can see, if you go to scorpioncomputerservices.com and click what we do, you'll see a lot of our practice areas. There's about 20 practice areas there. And yes, cybersecurity is one of them for people who actually want to be secure, not just pass audit. People who actually want to know if there's legitimate ways into their business. We opened up ScorpionStudiosInc.com.
Okay.
And what we do is the tech advisory work to companies and movies, like the next Spider-Man movie with Sony. And we would help them design everything from weapons to the bad guys' suits to the research for the scripts. And we have other big-name studios that use us for that, where the writers don't want to go off for 3 months and start researching nuclear energy devices. That we can just bring in a nuclear energy expert in 4 hours and give him the language he's looking for. And sometimes they just, the way I phrase it is, nobody remembers the individual James Bond movies, but everyone remembers the gadgets. So if you want to make your movie or your show or your story cooler with gadgets no one's ever seen before, we know what the state-of-the-art gadgets are. And we can make them realistic.
You're always
that's another business that we do.
You're always evolving and probably coming up with a new business, aren't you, Walter?
Whenever it makes sense, we'll spin out a new business. For a lot of our government work now, it's going to get very interesting as we do more and more cyber.
You know what I also find fascinating about this whole story is the best PR for you was Scorpion, and you get paid for it. So go figure. Only geniuses would come up with that, Walter. So I'm impressed, and I can't believe you took 26 minutes to take the time to talk to me. That would be a high price tag for me as well. And I think you're a brilliant man, and congratulations on all your success. And I tell you, I'm going to keep in touch, and never know if I want to pick up that phone call and have you back on again to get some free advice. But you're definitely showing me that odds are important before making decisions, and technology and research and having the right team around. Best place again, website for you again?
ScorpionComputerServices.com, or type your funded wish into conciergeup.com.
And you have all of your social media links on the website as well, correct?
I'm easy to find, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That was Walter O'Brien. And oh my gosh, I just, again, have been amazed. Can't wait to watch Scorpion this weekend now, and then have to tweet him out or Facebook him or send his publicist an email saying, what a genius. You know, people always talk about Donald Trump being a genius. This man was a genius. So great Neil Haley show. See you guys next week. Good day, everyone.